I see a Budweiser. Go ahead and hold it up.
Yes. There's
that was
our
the biggest clue.
Yes, right
Doing
there.
it for Dale.
Man, it's so many gimmicks, right? I feel like they're making it a lot more complicated than it needs to be. I mean, a lot of people, you get polarizing opinions on DRS.
I know you guys know exactly what I'm talking about here, but sometimes the effort, it's all about the boys. You know, like, hey, you know, life sucks sometimes, and you need the boys.
iRacing kind of always has a tendency to kind of buff
Yes.
the new cars just a little bit. I'm not going to go on record saying it's because they want people to spend money on their platform and buy all the new content.
Confirmed.
But
Yes.
but
We are live for the first time on Slow Motion Broadcasting with the FF Weekend Warriors. We're at Sebring this weekend. It's going to be a blast. I saw a little bit of rain here in the practice session, but we'll get to that here in 1 second. My name is Adam Thompson. I'm joined in the booth by Randall McGrew.
With these three going right at it, we see you're getting really, really squirrely. There,
Oh, no!
Some contact. Oh no! Jurg and Antonio, the two Masters leaders, both with issues and now dropping down the order.
There's a dicing through the curbs. Our lead two. As that's Instaman just slossing it up the inside through McIntyre there. Beautifully done by the Icelandic driver as there's a big incident happened behind somewhere. Gonzaga losing a lot of place. In fact,
almost touching at that point. They're around there heading into the closing stages of the track. Not quite there yet. Heading through what I'm calling the horseshoe, but let's not get into my drawing skills at this point. Nothing but clear track ahead of them at this point, so no one should be able to interfere in that battle. Side by side, nearly had contact there. That's going to put Kabanka on the inside for this next hairpin. This could be what decides it, and he's gone right on the outside, actually trying to cover off the car. I do wonder if Barry is going to be close enough to potentially slipstream. They've got 2 corners left to go. This is penultimate one now. Barry right up close, 0.3 of a second. I'm not sure it's going to be close enough, 0.2 of a second. He's got to keep his foot on that loud pedal. Catches a little bit of a curve, but has Kabanka done it? Barry going to the inside, and Kabanka gets it.
Well, hello and good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to Slow Motion Broadcasting, and welcome back to the Formula Ford Weekend Warriors. This is round number 7 of the season, coming to you today from Road America. My name is Ron Maunz, and alongside me working the comms and the cams is Daniel Zippy Salmon. And now, Zippy, we're heading off for a quick little stop in Sheesland this week, running at a fabulous racetrack. From hard braking zones to fast sweeping corners, this is a driver's track through and through. It's a long one, though, with lap times well over 2 minutes and possible fuel saving to talk about later on in this race. But as we're at the top of the show, we should probably talk about the most compelling storylines, that being the championship standings, because we've had some awesome championship fights all throughout this season. The Spec 1 S1 category being no different. James Berry, the driver of the number 100 car, currently in the championship lead, lost it 1 week ago while we raced at the Charlotte Roval. However, with a stunning performance there, he has now regained it over Kevin Adrian in P2 at about 11 points. Separating those two drivers have to go only 5 points back to Michael McConnell in third. Daniel Tuss and Jason Green going to round out your top 5 as it stands at the moment in the Spec 1 category. Moving on now to Spec 2. little bit of a bloodbath, if we're being completely honest. SMB's very own Joshua Wilkie at the front of the point standings there. Attaboy indeed, Zippy. He has been brutally fast thus far this season. 438 points on the board in front of Bill Walker in second at 309. And Josh has had a pretty topsy-turvy season as well. A little bit disappointed with how things went a couple of weeks ago at Cadwell Park when he picked up a DQ in that race, which was unlike any other Formula Ford Weekend Warriors race I have ever seen, and that is saying something, folks. But now going to move on to the last category that we have in this Weekend Warriors Formula Ford Series, that being the Masters. Looking pretty good for Jorg Mani as it stands at the moment. 20 minutes into this 40-man long race is going to be the halfway mark of this season, and he enters this 7th round with the championship lead a little bit farther in front of Brad Cathcart in P2, Jim Brewster, Antonio Reese, and series admin Stevie Ray going to round out your top 5 in the Masters standings. I'm curious how things would shake out if Antonio Reese was a bit more of a consistent figure this season. He's usually pretty fast in this series. The same can also be said about the Spec Racer Fords. However, he's been not too present all throughout this season, has had a few absences here and there, but nevertheless, he is with us here at the moment, currently qualified 4th in this qualifying session that we're slowly drawing to a close of. But Zippy, I brought it up in the open, talking about the possibility of having some fuel strategy play a role in this race. It was a completely different track, but not Long Beach, Lime Rock Park a couple of weeks ago had a very similar finish with the drivers running out of gas towards the end of that race. So heading to a track like this, where if you run out of fuel, you're pretty much SOL, what are your thoughts heading into this race?
Well, there's definitely some contenders here for the Thompson Trophy. Now, Antonio Reese, he's generally quite good on fuel, but certainly a few of them did get caught short. I believe it was the Formula Fords last week at Charlotte, where when the leaders crossed the start-finish line, there was literally just a couple of seconds in it that would have triggered an extra lap or not, and that caught quite a few of the guys out. I almost wonder as well if you maybe wanted to lift potentially and try just for the fuel side of it. You don't know, I mean, what the guy behind you has going on, right? But certainly some interesting battles are going to develop. But we do have a couple of newcomers here today in the Formula Fords, and some of them are familiar names just in different cars. So if I have a look, I'm just going to scroll through the list. We got the Straczynski brothers in today, so Brian and Dan taking a debut here in the Formula Fords. Daniel Varron as well, he's another one of these new drivers. Chris Bocher, Canadian driver as well. So definitely some new names to keep an eye out for sure. And I do understand as well, Jorg Mani is not going to be with us this weekend. We are very much sorry for the passing of his dear friend, his feline friend, and certainly something I can sympathise with. So if you got any spare love, definitely send it the way of Jorg Mani. But we're going to try and get a quick lap on board with Antonio Reese. I believe he is just coming around the final corner. Ron, if you would like to do the honors.
That he certainly is, going on to this mega long start-finish straightaway at this old-school blast from the past racetrack, pretty much unchanged ever since it was first constructed all the way back in the 50s. But riding on board with Antonio Reese, the Masters driver, always a standout star in the Weekend Warriors world, heading down this long, seemingly never-ending start-finish straightaway. But you're heading off now into turn number 1, one of the heaviest braking zones around this racetrack. And as you can see from that slow car right in front of him, when it comes to the pit exit, it's really tough around this racetrack. More on that come time for talking about the pit stops, come time for the 40-minute long race we have to look forward to. Went through the small meandering kink of turn 2, not really a corner, however they still classify because of motorcycle races. All through turn number 3, lots of drivers have gone into some trouble heading through there. They see that in this race. Heading down to the Marine Sweep, there was turn number 3A a couple of moments ago, all through 4 right about now. Doesn't really feel like a corner, but they count it as one anyway. Downhill braking off into turn number 5, a fantastic overtaking opportunity, especially towards the very beginning of this race. These drivers may try and sneak a wheel down the inside and feel particularly racy going up the hill under the bridge into turn number 6, a good spot as well to try and get a move done if you didn't get it done through turn number 5. Turn number 7, though, you really want to be single file through there. You are chucking it in and having full commitment in your race car. It is a good overtaking opportunity as well. It's turn number 8, a tight left-hander corner, very sharp heading into the corner, hard braking as well, but you gotta get that move done in convincing fashion because you don't want to be side by side heading through the carousel, especially towards the end of these races with some marble buildup on the outside, because that'll be a one-way ticket to the outside barrier. Now coming out of the carousel, you're bracing yourself for the kink, one of the hardest corners in the world of racing, and in these Formula Fords it is no different. You're on the limit of control, the limit of grip, and if you go side by side there, good luck. Kettle Bottoms now. This is the long, not so straight back straightaway. This is a good flat-out opportunity to head into Canada corner. Lots of drama has happened in that corner in the past. I remember Alonso Jr. blowing his motor up towards the end of an IndyCar race here back in 1996, giving the lead to Michael Andretti in the dying breaths of that race. That's turn 13 that we went through a couple of moments ago. A really tough ride. Don't want to avoid any of the drama you could possibly fall into running wide through that corner. Don't want to have that happen to you. Otherwise, it feels more like a rally special stage than anything else. And turn 14, the final corner. Don't want to get into some trouble there as well. The runoff areas around this circuit, even though the scan is a little bit out of date, the runoff areas around this circuit, which has just recently been rescanned and recently hosted the 2024 SCCA National Championship runoffs, where some of these racers that we are going to be covering today were actually racing there. But this track is an absolutely wonderful ride, and this qualifying session coming to a close right now. Zippy, looking pretty good for Maurizio Nazelli, trying to grab back-to-back poles in this series.
Well, certainly Mauricio, we've seen some fantastic talent from him. A little bit of a debatable pass last time with Wan Shi Lin, but that was more in the SRFs at the Nuremberg ring. But certainly it's good to see he's expanded his vocabulary as we're taking a quick peek at Jason Green there. Hopefully he can have a little bit of a race result from yesterday. Having a fantastic race, ended up getting tangled up with Guido Marzucci, sorry Guido, not to roast you, but it happens. And we're talking about it in the chat right now. Tamara, absolutely regular here at the SMB chat, and I'm very much happy to have her on board. And certainly, it was an unfortunate event, but I've got to say it was a sheer testament to the talent of drivers. Having done an official race, like, it was way cleaner than I ever could have expected, and that is an absolute compliment and recognition to the people we have here driving in this league. Let's see if we
that's
get
one
this,
good thing to
grid up run. I'll try anyway. Sorry.
I think we'll, quite all right, Zippy. Don't worry about it. Gonna get that starting grid loaded up in the not-too-distant future. This qualifying session still going on. Some drivers out there on the racetrack still. Just going to bring up the competitiveness in this series. You always have close but respectful racing. And a lot of these drivers have been here before. They've been around for numerous seasons here in the Formula Ford Weekend Warriors. So they are very familiar with each other. Some of the veterans, though, they're going to be starting up towards the front. Maurizio Nazelli, who we usually have seen in the past in the Spec Racer Ford Weekend Warriors series, he's going to be starting this race from a pole, so a pretty good result for the German behind the wheel, the number 46 car, going to set the pole time at a 2-minute 21.249. That, I believe, is possibly the longest pole time that we've had thus far this season. This racetrack, despite the fact that a lot of it is spent flat out, still 4 miles long, so it is a very long ride to be sure. Ian Joyner going to join him on the front row, less than a tenth of a second separating those two cars when everything is said and done from the qualifying session. Going to be a nice battle between those two drivers. James Berry entering this race with the championship lead is going to be starting right behind in third. And Kane Lasky, the driver of the 09 car, he took a 1-week vacation here in this series. Can't necessarily say it was entirely of his own fruition. Really caught the ire of many drivers and broadcasters respectively off the back of what happened at the Hungaroring a couple of weeks ago, and a very dramatic and very controversial finish. He's still pretty fast, though, in this series, so if he can keep his nose clean, he's going to be starting this race in fourth, and he may be a contender come time for the end of this 40 minutes of racing action that we have coming up in the not-too-distant future here on SMB. The Masters driver, Antonio Reese, behind the wheel of the 914 car, going to be starting this race from the Masters pole position, P5 overall. Julian Ditchburn, who is a Spec 2 champion a couple of seasons ago here in this series, and now a Spec 1 driver, going to be starting in 6th. Michael McConnell going to be starting in 7th. SMB's very own Joshua Wilkie going to be starting this race in 8th. The Australian of Peter Maddox behind the wheel of the 127 car going to be starting this race in 9th. Jason Green in the 160 car going to round out your top 10, with the top 10 drivers in that qualifying session separated by about 1.4 seconds. Shows you that even in a competitive series like this, you can occasionally have stuff like that happen, where you just have a field so spread out. Kevin Adrian going to be starting this race in P11. Jörg Monty not going to be with us here, and certainly
we miss you, Jörg.
Over to Jörg. Yeah, we miss you, Jörg. Always a good driver to cover in this series, and some of his interviews have been very awesome to be a part of as well. It's going to be George Gonzaga starting this race in 12th. Alan DeGassis and Jim Brewster going to make up an all-Masters 7th row in this race, and we have an all-Spec 2 8th row, trying to get the numbers right. Chris Montgomery going to be starting in 15th. Brian Szynski, a Formula V Weekend Warriors standout, going to be starting this race in 16th. Jason Perry in 17th. Russell Telker, who I believe is disconnected from the session. I saw his car in pit lane, so he was meant to start in 18th. However, he will not be taking the start out there on the racetrack, I believe. Bill Walker going to be starting in 19th. Andrew Love going to round out your top 20. We have an all-Masters row 11 with Brad Cathcart in 21st. And Michael Nelson, a newcomer to the series, I believe, the Danish driver, going to be starting in 22nd. Daniel Verone in 23rd. Daniel Szynski in 24th, completing an all-Dan 12th row. Oh boy. Paul Jackson in 25th. Jason Grider in 26th. Trent Kramer in 27th. Jeff Jacobson at P28. And rounding out your field is another newcomer, that being Chris Bocher, making a series debut, the Canadian behind the wheel of the number 28 car, a Spec 2 driver in his series debut. And one awesome track to make your debut at as well. 14 corners, an awesome ride, and a historic ride in the world of racing. They call it the National Park of Speed for a very good reason, Zippy. These drivers are going to be zipping around the racetrack in the 40 minutes of racing action we have coming up.
Oh, absolutely. It's definitely going to be a very fun race. And I do think the draft's going to be a big part of it. Certainly there is a couple of parts of this track where you're going to very much want to stay with the pack. And I think certainly if I was a newcomer here, don't get me wrong, while it would have been nice to qualify up a bit higher in the grid, I would definitely be looking to try and make up some places by attrition. Certainly, you know, when you're driving with a new crowd, it is definitely something to keep in mind. You don't yet know potentially the standard of the drivers, but I am going to make a quick shout out as well. We are missing both Adam Thompson and Stevie Ray, and it's fair to say I think they couldn't agree on who would be driving the Steam rig today, because I do understand Stevie has managed to actually go and see our SMB comrade. So I've got to admit, I'm a little bit jealous there, but I'm also like really happy on the inside. And actually, it turns out we have a Discord channel in SMB saying, like, you know, if you've been on a road trip and stuff like that. And I was recently, I went and took a visit to Peggy's Cove, and Julian Ditchburn is like, oh, nice to see you made it to Nova Scotia. I'm like, well, dude, I live here. Turns out he lives an hour from me. So I have a new person to cheer for in an unbiased manner in the number 193 car of Julian Ditchburn.
Oh boy, now I'm gonna have to go through and try and see Daniel Verone, the driver of the 272 car, is also from Pennsylvania.
Yeah,
so
that was coming.
I've lived in Philadelphia for all the years that I've been on planet Earth. So hey, Daniel, if you're out there, unless you're living in Erie, which like 5 people live out there in Erie. So if you're around the area, actually no, I say that Michelle Lynn, a Formula V Weekend Warriors staple, is from Philadelphia, along with Christian Kabanka, I believe, who has been a staple in the Weekend Warriors world in the past. I remember a couple of weeks ago, actually it was the broadcast of the race at Cadwell Park, he was talking about the fact that he was watching the broadcast from Center City, Philadelphia, which honestly, having your phone out in the Center City of Philadelphia, that is... it's a lot more bravery. I would not do that. But anyways, we're just going to move on from that and brace ourselves for what's going to be a fantastic day of racing action here for round number 7 of the Formula Ford Weekend Warriors. Got a massive pack of race cars, a long track to contend with as well, and a matter of seconds could separate yourself from crossing the finish line in first to having a complete heartbreaker of a finish and running out of fuel. But the driver who's going to be starting this race from the pole, Maurizio Nazelli, he's always been fast in this series, was fast 1 week ago. Let's see if he can try and avenge his performance at the Charlotte Roval 1 week ago and grab the win. The green flag is out, the drivers are on their way, and you can see some drivers already trying to get some moves done. Look at Josh Wilkie trying to wheel it, nearly making a 3 wide heading through the mid-pack, but heading down now into turn number 1, looking like a pretty good start from Nazelli. He's going to be leading at James Berrygang and moved on to hold on to the P3 spot. Ian Joyner also running strongly as well. I think Brian Szynski has had an off-track moment. He's dropping down the running order. You can see he's now rejoined the racetrack before they head down into turn number 3. Side by side now with Kane Lasky and Antonio Reese coming out of turn number 3, heading down the back straightaway for the first time, sorry.
If that's the final time, Ron, that was definitely one of the shortest races we've ever had, but we're currently on board here with Kane Lasky, and I've got to admit, I'm going to put up the race graphics in just a second. You can see Josh Wilkie right behind as well. He's trying to be a little bit of a diamond in the rough. Oh, gosh, I thought they were going to push it 3 wide there. Absolutely incredible move, and certainly that corner at the end of that straight, I'm sure you know the name of it, Ron. It's not Canada Corner, I can tell you that much, but certainly going to be one of the hot places to pass here today at Road America.
You're really gonna be putting me on the spotlight. The iRacing track map does not have that corner name there. I will get back to you on that information though. About midway through the first lap of this race, these races at Road America, it always feels like, all right, we should be crossing the start-finish line again now. But as it turns out, that is not the case. This racetrack is long, and for these drivers in these Formula Ford race cars, they're now having to deal with the carousel for the first time in this race. Riding on board with Kevin Adrian behind the wheel of the number 10 car, right behind Jason Green in 10th. So there's going to be a nice fight between these two, heading down off into the kink the first time by. No drivers looking to try and go for a move like that, especially at the very beginning of this race. That is a move that can usually end in absolute disaster or heartbreak, but some drivers are already feeling a bit racy. I may have jinxed that though. Looks like maybe some battling involving Adrian, getting a move put on him by George Gonzaga. Looks like Gonzaga gonna get that move done, hang down into Canada corner the first time by, and we nearly saw a double overtake with DeGassis trying to get by Kevin Adrian as well, heading off into that corner. But about to complete lap number 1 in just a couple of moments time, and it's looking like the front pack beginning to break away.
Well, that's definitely one of the things to keep in mind as well as we have a look. Maurizio currently leading by about a car length, maybe 2, but going down that start-finish straight, he's not going to be able to retain that for much longer. And you can see here, Ian Joyner have already bunching up. James Barry right behind. Now, I know you're very familiar with the success of James Barry, certainly in the Radical Series, and his teammate is George Gonzaga, who we saw making that pass just a few moments ago. But if you look behind the car of James Barry, they've already pulled quite a considerable gap. As you were saying, it's about 1.3 seconds right now, assuming I'm reading the timing screen correctly. Stranger things have happened, ladies and gentlemen. But I don't know, if I was James Barry, what would be your play on this, Ron? How would you approach this scenario?
Ooh, that is a very good question. James Barry is a very methodical racer. That's probably part of the reason why he's had so much success in the Radical SR10s. He's the reigning Radical Official Series champion in the world of iRacing, and is also the 2024 Radical European Championship, officially organized by Radical. So he is a very fast driver in those race cars. Very fast in this series as well. He's a reigning champion here in the Formula Ford Weekend Warriors, and I think part of the reason why he's been able to be a champion is just because he can exercise a whole lot of patience, which may be his game. Looking at a fight involving George Gonzaga, his teammate, and Jason Green. Look like Gonzaga gonna get that move done to slip his way up into 10th, as Kevin Adrian still dropping back, as Alan DeGassis, the Masters driver, running P2 of the Masters drivers, and 12th overall, has gotten a move put on him to slip Adrian in that number 10 car back into 13th. Getting back and talking about what sort of strategy we may see from James Barry throughout this race, I think the patient game is going to be the one that he tries to play. Being in the position that he's in right now, he may not be looking at a move on Nazelli or Joyner, but we may see those two drivers come to blows, in which case there's Barry going into the lead, or what we could be seeing is a little bit of fuel saving. He's in the draft. The draft isn't too big in these Formula Ford race cars, which pretty much punch about as much hole in the air as a nail file would. So they're very small race cars. The draft isn't too strong in them, but James Barry's still going to be enjoying the draft of the whole punch in the air by the two race cars right in front of him. So he may be playing the fuel saving game, despite the fact we're not even 2 complete laps into this race.
Well, it's definitely something to keep in mind for sure. I'm not going to underestimate that. And on the flip side as well, I don't think you're going to be getting hired by the Red Bull aerodynamic department, certainly with a comparison of a nail file. But sorry, Ron, I can't compete with your little witty anecdotes. But as I have a look right now, we've got an interesting battle starting to emerge a little bit back in P5 overall. It's between Antonio Reese, one of the masters here, and Josh Wilkie is very, very close behind him. You see Wilkie running out a little bit wider there. Julian Ditchburn, the Lunenburg driver. Sorry, Julian, it just feels very good to say that. Bit of provincial pride, you could say. He's currently sat back there in 7th. Certainly, you know, you can already see a couple of different packs emerging right now. So you got the leaders, they're kind of pulled away from everybody. Then Kane Lasky, well, he's now going toe-to-toe with Antonio Reese. So it's a battle of the Master and the S1. And Wilkie's probably going to have a front row view of that as we have a look. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. You can see Lasky has currently been passed by Reese. Wilkie looking to make a move up the inside. It's a bit brave. Is he going to get through the corner? Where's Lasky? There he is. Lasky backed right out of it. And Julian Ditchburn said, thank you very much. I'll have some of that as well.
And you know, some drivers may be like, oh, Wilkie going for a little bit of a borderline move. That's what happened between those two towards the end of the race at the Hungaroring a couple of weeks ago. Lasky did not give, and he turned Wilkie around and caused a little bit of drama between those two. So Josh just returning the favor. Lasky's still not going to be very happy, as he not only lost out on that spot to Wilkie, he also lost out on a position to Antonio Reese, along with Julian Ditchburn, who's now running in the 6th position. Ditchburn's had a pretty rough season up to this point. Started from the pole at Cadwell Park about a month ago, but ever since then, things really have not materialized for him this season. I remember about 1 season ago here from the Formula Ford Weekend Warriors, when it was clear that he made the call to go from Spec 2 to Spec 1. He was a driver that I was going to be keeping my eyes on throughout the season, but never really materialized for him. But Ditchburn is fast at times, and we're seeing that thus far. Looking at fight between Jason Green and George Gonzaga, hang down into Canada corner. Looks like Green going to hold off onto that position for now, but Gonzaga is still going to be willing it on the inside. Not close enough to get a move done yet. However, he may be feeling a little bit antsy to get this move done, just based off the fact that he has a huge pack of race cars right behind him.
Well, very much that is the case, and you can see here from Peter Maddox, he's about 7/10 of a second ahead, but you're going to see that gap close down, already 2/10 lower as they're going down the start-finish straight. And Jason Green currently leading a pack of, I'm going to say, about 5 cars right now. Trenton Kramer 2 seconds off of that pack. So certainly, there you go. You can see the closing speed of the draft look, and right now, Maddox is just trying to hug the inside line and defend it, but George Gonzaga, he's got an absolutely fantastic run. I thought they were going to send it free wide for a second there, but Maddox very defensive, and Maddox has got off. Oh, dear.
Maddox going off the circuit. That is a big mistake for him, and it's going to send him back into the shadow realm, side by side with Green and Gonzaga heading down into turn number 3. Looks like they're still going to be side by side on corner exit. Maddox feeling the burn, feeling the pressure. Nearly saw a move that Michael Schumacher and Mika Hakkinen pulled off on a lapped car many moons ago in Formula 1 at Spa. We nearly saw a repeat of that here at Road America with some Formula Ford race cars, and Maddox being the one that was going to be sent off into Never Never Land. Looking though side by side, nearly making contact between Gonzaga and Green, hang downhill off into turn number 5. Such a good overtaking opportunity, but it's so inviting as well, and considering you're downhill entering the corner, it could end in tears. Maybe a lockup, maybe a contact. You never know. I've seen a whole lot of it happen at this racetrack. I'm sure this race, despite the fact it's been clean thus far, I doubt very highly that this track is going to get away with it as well. Riding on board with Trent Kramer, who's slowly reeling in this pack. Oh, right as I say that, the immediate commentator's jinx goes around entering turn number 8. And Trent Kramer, if you're watching this stream in post, I apologize.
That's absolutely fantastic, Ron. I thought I was going to get the blame for that, but I'm very happy if you want to just throw yourself under the Formula Ford on that occasion. We know Trenton's been having some computer issues, but it's fair to say Tamara says his computer looks fine now. Indeed it does. Sorry, Trenton, that one was 100% on you. And literally, we've seen you catch up a 2-second gap, got it down to 7/10 of a second. We're going to leave that on hold now because it looks like DeGasis, George, and Green all squabbling for what I believe is P9.
Oh, and off the track again goes Peter Maddox heading down into Canada corner. That car does not look like it's handling well at all. Either he's just very uncomfortable, or maybe there's a little bit of damage on that 127 car. He has majorly lost touch with all of the cars in front. Started this lap in what, about 7th or 8th? He's going to end it all the way down in 14th, so really tough series of events for him, and he may feel some pressure from the Masters driver Jim Brewster in the not too distant future. Cathcart may be having a moment. He's dropping down the running order. I'm not sure what happened to Brad Cathcart. Halsey. Oh, I think he may have gone off the circuit again. Maybe try and find a replay of that in the not too distant future. Side by side, Gonzaga getting the move done on Green, and now Green feeling some pressure from Alan DeGasis. They're going to be side by side on corner exit. May single file out, possibly got a single file out. They do single file out, heading down into turn number 3. Green remaining in that final top 10 position as it stands at the moment, but still the fight is very much on. But taking a look back to see what may have happened to Brad Cathcart. Let's take a look to see what happened here, Zippy.
Well, as you can see, I saw him just out of the corner of my eye, and that's Trenton Kramer right behind him. And that looks like just maybe a little bit of over-rotation, gets a little unstable, catches it. Honestly, it was quite a good save. And then it looks like he has chosen to just stop. Okay, interesting. But certainly good sportsmanship, and certainly you would not want to try and rejoin on the middle of that field there. So definitely unfortunate for Cathcart, but, it's better than rejoining the field and absolutely obliterating half of it. I know certainly Some official races, that can be the case, where you just, that's where you make sure the microphone is off, Ron.
Oh boy, you're giving me some very bad flashbacks to some race officiating I was doing here a couple of months ago, where a driver was not very happy with a call that we in race control made. It was at this very racetrack as well. Oh boy, that is not a good flashback at
That's all right, Ron. We'll bring you back here.
Yeah, let's go back to the racing action here before I have a slight existential crisis here live on the air. I'll tell you what, won't see that anywhere else apart from slow motion broadcasting. Oh boy, Chris Montgomery running in lucky number P13. Jason Green, meanwhile, applying some pressure again to Gonzaga. Those two have been trading blows like it's going out of style and slowly losing touch with the cars right in front. McConnell's about 2.5 seconds farther up the road, but these drivers are still continuing to fight. They're nearly side by side a couple of moments ago, heading down into turn number 13, coming out of Canada corner, but it looks like they're going to single file out yet again. Roy don't want to go for a move in the top half of this lap unless you're on the final lap of this race, because then you're just a sitting duck. Looking at this, Gonzaga not getting a great exit. He didn't get a bad exit, mind you. He just did not get the draft. Green, meanwhile, he is going to try and power around the outside of him. You can see some fighting going on right behind that involving Adrian and Montgomery, but side by side. Ooh, is this going to be a fight? No, it looks like they're going to single file out, heading down into turn number 1. Green still feeling the burn, running a little bit wide coming out of the corner. This is going to be the shot that Gonzaga needs to retake that spot. The Portuguese driver in the 183 car has been brutally fast thus far this season. He's trying to get a move done on Green, who's a staple in this series. And look a little bit farther up the road, I believe Wilkie and Reese have started to battle for the final positions inside the overall top 5.
Oh my gosh, so yeah, a second pack, and I guess that's why Josh asked me where the profile picture thing was. I'm not sure if that's him or if that's just something snazzy he's put in, but looking pretty badass to say the least for the hometown heroes. And you can see he's currently leading that pack in P4 overall. Himself, Antonio Reese, Julian Ditchburn, and Kane Lasky having a fight. And it looks like Michael McConnell has been able to almost get onto the back of that as well. So certainly some interesting battles happening throughout the field. Further up the field, however, Maurizio Nazelli not yet able to shake off Ian Joyner, and James Barry as well staying very hot in tow. So definitely a few battles going on. Looks like Jim Brewster's going at it with Peter Maddox as well.
Ooh, there you can see him nearly side-by-side hang down into turn number 8. Nearly side-by-side again coming out of turn number 8. So Brewster and Maddox starting to battle. Maddox has had a terrible run of things as of late. His best lap of the race is at a 2-minute 23.301. But in terms of some of the laps he's set as of late, his pace has virtually cratered in the past few stages of this race. Looking right behind, though, running on board with Andrew Love in the 544 car. He may start to battle in the not-too-distant future. Right in front of him is Bill Walker. Will it be side-by-side? Yes, it will be side-by-side. Heading down into Canada corner, it will be a battle. Last late breakers look like Love is actually going to clear him before they even think about getting on the brake pedal. So well done from Love. A commanding move for two drivers running in the Spec 2 category as Nazelli had some sort of off-track excursion, or as he just made that early call to come into the pits. He has made the early call to come into the pits. So Maurizio Nazelli in the 47 car making an interesting call to come into the pits in the very early stage of this race. He's not alone, though, as Jason Green has joined him as well. So this is an interesting call from both of these drivers coming into this race pretty much right as the fuel window is opening. They're going to be trendsetters, though, I think.
Well, certainly it is certainly a higher risk strategy. Myself, I tend to pit as late as possible, but these guys have certainly shown us that the early pit can often be beneficial. And if you're fighting in a pack like Jason Green, very much him and George Gonzaga fighting in the pack, and I think Green's just trying to get free of that. He's realized, he goes, I can run quicker than this. I just have to keep battling with these cars. They're looking for a little bit of clean air at this point.
Yeah, I think these drivers at this point are feeling the burn on their tires. The dirty air, even with these race cars that have virtually no aerodynamics at all, you still got a little bit of dirty air coming off the back of these race cars and around a racetrack like this, especially heading through the carousel. My God, that's a fate worse than death. Looking at Gonzaga starting to battle with Kevin Adrian. Adrian having a fantastic series of laps. He's been saying some pretty good lap times and has slowly brought himself back up into this fight from the brink of disaster. He got shuffled out a little while ago. However, in this now 4-car fight involving Gonzaga, Adrian, DeGassis, and Montgomery, Adrian currently running second of these drivers. We'll have to see how they shake out in reference to Green once they make that call to come down pit lane to join Green. I'm curious as to whether or not we're going to see the likes of James Berry and Ian Joyner follow him. Gotta say, Berry and Joyner have started to fight, with Berry now slipping into the lead of this race as it stands at the moment, up 2 spots where he started in this race. Will Joyner try and respond, though? You can see those 2 cars practically nose to tail coming out of the kink, flat out heading down into Canada corner. Will he go for a move? He won't go for a move. So these 2 drivers may be playing a little bit of that patient waiting game. That could be the reason why they have not traded paint just yet. Trading spots out like it's going out of style, and I'm curious as to whether or not they're going to be coming down pit lane in the not-too-distant future. I think Antonio Reese is on an off-track excursion. He is careening his way down the running order. He was running solidly inside the top 5. Now he's outside of the top 15. He's out of it, so I think Antonio Reese may have just had a major amount of drama to take him out of contention in this race. Gonna take a look at a replay to see what in the world happened there for the driver in the Masters category, who's been fantastic to follow all throughout the season. And he could see it was contact with himself, and I believe Julian Ditchburn coming out of Canada corner.
Oh, we're going to get another shot of that in just a second here, Ron, but definitely an unfortunate event. I'm going to try and... Yeah, that's Julian Ditchburn's car right behind it. Oh, yeah, no, definitely a little bit too close. Unfortunate very much for Antonio Reese, but at least on the upside, not a massive incident in terms of damage, and he was able to get very quickly off the line, but then he's jumped to the pit, so I believe he may have just gone and retired that car, which is certainly a little bit of a shame there. Certainly a race-ending incident for him. While we're on the subject of crashes, one of the newcomers here, Daniel Verone, this is your man, I believe, there, Ron. The Pennsylvania's finest. Let's see exactly what happened to him.
Well, Pennsylvania's finest usually probably applies to our state trooper, that or the potholes that we have in the roads here in this state, but taking a look at a replay to see what may have happened to him. Oh, just a simple spin coming through turn number 8, and oh, that was some evasive action. I'm not sure who that was.
That was like Jasinski.
Having to drop the angers. Brian, was that Dan Szynski, possibly?
I couldn't tell you which one. I believe it was Dan, because Dan's, I think, is blue. Brian's, I think, is green. But I've got to say, what an absolutely fantastic evasive maneuver there from the driver involved. Absolutely great stuff. But let's take a look. I see as well, George Gonzaga's come in the pits. He's been in and out of the pits. Peter Maddox as well has echoed that. Let's take a quick peek as well. So Julian Ditchburn, Kane Lasky, and Josh Wilkie, these guys are still very much going at it for the hometown. Well, Wilkie for the hometown heroes. Spread out a little bit as well. So Ditchburn, we saw, had that incident. McConnell, he's up on the back of that pack. But Montgomery, he's dropped back a little bit. He's now involved with Kevin Adrian. So I believe he's lost a bit of time there, Ron.
I think a whole lot of drivers have lost out on some time in the past few moments, mainly the pack of Gonzaga, because the gap to himself and green is quite expansive as it stands at the moment. So maybe that early decision to come down pit lane going to help out the drivers who have taken it. Looking at that fight, though, Kevin Adrian in the midst of a sandwich between Montgomery and DeGassis. You got all 3 drivers in this pack representing all 3 of the different classes. As James Berry has come in, Josh Wilkie going to follow him. We'll see if Kane Lasky, Julian Ditchburn, or any of the other drivers running up towards the front have made that decision to follow them. No, they have not. So Barry going to complete another top 3 racer, coming in far different and far independent from everybody else. We saw a couple of laps ago the interesting call from Maurizio Nazelli to come down pit lane only 14.5 minutes into this 40-minute long race, making that call to come into the pits. There he is, running in 17th at the moment. So Nazelli, I mean, I've seen him in the past in the Spec Racer Ford Weekend Warriors series, and he put on some overtaking clinics in those races, not even bothering to set a qualifying time, but he is a fast racer. Barry is as well. Who's played the strategy to perfection? Who has played it to absolute dismay? Will it be Nazelli? Will it be Barry, though? I think it may be a fight between these 2 on pit exit.
Oh, here we go.
There's Barry right in front of him, able to jump Nazelli, but he's going to be on cold tires, and he's going to be skidding like a declawed cat trying to climb up an igloo. Nazelli going to try to apply some pressure, though.
I knew there was going to be some kind of cat reference from Ron. Like, I absolutely knew it was coming in. And we got a little message here from Brian. I put in a full clean 40 minutes last night. Thought I figured out the car. I was wrong. I completely sympathize there, Brian. But right now, we're going to take a look at Maurizio Nazelli trying to take the, well, I guess the outright lead as it stands with pit stops factored in and stuff like that. And he is absolutely slingshot past Barry. But for how long? And you know what? If I was James Barry, I would 100% sit behind Maurizio and just try and save a little bit more fuel. Because, you know, when you're getting into the fuel and stuff like that, often if you've got like a calculator doing the work for you, if you're in a draft the whole time, it will take that data, and you could potentially be underfueled if you then end up leading the car. So, you know, it's certainly something to keep in mind, as that, I believe, is Daniel Stasinski right ahead of him.
What's interesting to follow in reference to these two is their time spent down pit lane, their time spent in the pit box. Barry's spending about 1.5 seconds less down in pit lane and about 2 seconds less down in the pit stall. So a little bit more aggressive on pit entry and exit was Barry compared to Nazelli. Of course, these Formula Ford race cars, pretty hard to try and manage, especially at a pit entry like this where it may be completely arrow straight.
Whoa.
You still got to feel the burn. Look at that from Stasinski. That's a
lift.
Terrifying perspective for the driver of the 89 car. Let them go by, but that perspective running over the back of that, boy, that was not something you want to see in your rearview mirror at all. But with about half of this race left to go, half the race already on the board, half of the race left, seeing some more drivers come down pit lane. That's Chris Montgomery, was in the lead of the Spec 2 category. We'll see how things shake out compared to him and the rest of the Spec 2 field and the rest of the drivers that he was around. But getting back to the subject of Nazelli and Barry and their time spent down pit lane, I gotta say, honestly, Zippy, if I was James Barry, I would stay behind Nazelli, but
You
I
say
would
that.
toy with him. And right as I say that, beautiful timing. He's not going to be bothering. However, what he's going to be doing is kind of like to bring in more cat analogies, it's like a cat playing with a mouse before he eats it. That's really what I'm seeing with these drivers. As much as Barry may be feeling the burn from Nazelli, having to push that car a little bit more, one thing that is burning is the fuel. So maybe as much as a fuel game could be won by saving fuel, you could win the game as well just by burning a whole lot of fuel and forcing your competitor to burn even more fuel. So maybe that's the reason why Barry's starting to push this issue a little bit more with himself and Nazelli. That, or they're kind of worried about Ian Joyner, who is still yet to come down pit lane from the lead of this race.
Well, I was just literally thinking about that as well. So Ian Joyner right now, he's out front, he's got clean air, but I wonder, is Maurizio Nazelli and James Barry, are they aware of that? And are they having like a temporary truce almost to try and slingshot each other further ahead in the... Remember to adjust your audio, Zippy, made me jump there. I'm sorry, Bobby. Am I too loud? By all means, guys, if I'm too loud, give me a... if there's ever any audio or anything like that, give me a heads up. Tell me what you need, and I will very happily accommodate it. Just don't ask me to speak French, because it's not going to go very well. But to get back to my point, so Ian Joyner right now, he's out there running solo. I'm expecting him to come to the pits pretty soon. But, you know, is Maurizio Nazelli and James Barry, are they working together right now to try and slingshot each other further ahead of the number 8 car of Ian Joyner, who's still managing to stay out? But we've got a couple of battles still going on as well. It looks like Julian Ditchburn, he's caught up to the back of Kane Lasky. So we have a freeway fight going on here. Ditchburn incredibly close right now, and Michael McConnell, he's probably got the best throw in the order right now, as he's going to watch these two guys go hard at it.
He's got the best view in the venue, though, seeing those two drivers go side by side down the start-finish straightaway. They're going to single file out, though, heading down into turn number 1. So Ditchburn getting that move done. Lasky slotting in P3. And right as we were mentioning that, some drama involving cars either right in front of them or right behind them. Ian Joyner last time by just at the fastest lap of the race at a 1-minute 21.645. So he may be just doing a complete reverse of what we saw James Barry and Maurizio Nazelli do, maybe stretching that gas out even more. Of all the racetracks that have a split strategy, though, this would be the one to do it. Kane Lasky now trying to fight back to Joyner. They're going to be side by side. That game of leapfrog continues between the two of them, with Lasky now jumping in front, hang down into turn number 5 on the 11th lap of this 40-minute long race. Looks like some more pit stops continuing involving Alan DeGassis, who is right behind these drivers, and Andrew Love. So that's going to give the S2 lead to Russell Telker, who started this race from the pit, so he's put on a pretty good drive. Looking at these two cars very close on pit exits.
Well, certainly these guys are going to go hard at it again. And Bobby West, thank you very much. We have bumped the audio down a little bit. Please, anytime if you guys pick up something you feel I need to tweak, let me know. I'm very happy to accommodate that. And again, all I can do is go off the levels. And you guys are the ones watching it. So if you feel there's something I need to do, by all means, I'm happy for you to request that. That goes for any of the streams, ladies and gentlemen. We're just humans. But right now, let's focus on these two humans. We've got Andrew Love and Alan DeGasis. And these guys are going hard at it. Actually, I'm just reminding as well, Peter True I haven't seen for a little while. Because I remember seeing himself and Andrew Love and, you know, being a little bit smitten about the acronym of True Love. I thought that was a beautiful thing. And ironically, in a race, it's not something that we see. Well, certainly, I've never seen a race that is that's true love, but on that terrible punt, let's carry on, ladies and gentlemen. Let's have a look to see what is happening up here, because I believe there is a battle going on with Josh Wilkie and Jason Green.
Yeah, that fight is definitely brewing between those two drivers, separated by about 0.4 of a second, hang their way through the carousel. Looking at Ditchburn and McConnell, they've now come down pit lane, so splitting away from Lasky. Joyner, meanwhile, is still yet to come into the pits and is still lapping pretty quick, only about a couple of hundredths of a second slower than his best lap of the race thus far. Kevin Adrian slipping into the pits too, along with Brewster, Kramer, Will Perry follow in suit as well, running in the 8th position as it stands at the moment.
Pits are
Looking
busy,
at that
Ron.
Train of cars, though. Yeah, pit lane super busy, looking like a Best Buy on Black Friday more than a racetrack pit lane. These drivers making that call to come into the pits. 26.5 minutes on the board of this 40-minute long race. That's the thing with these Weekend Warriors races. We see it in the Formula Fords. We're seeing it in the Spec Racer Fords later on today. The fuel strategies can be just so wildly different compared to everybody else. Right as I was saying that, though, we saw Barry and Nazelli going side by side, hang down the start-finish straightaway, so the game of cat and mouse more or less continuing between those two drivers, now running in 3rd and 4th as it stands at the moment. Trying to see how far they are off the back of the race leader, though. That is the question that I have in my mind at this point in time. I believe, trying to go through that at the moment. Ooh, DeGas is going side by side with Love, so we'll touch back on that point in just a couple of moments' time. DeGas is in Love battling. Love going to get that move done to slip his way up into 12th. Thinking of that fight with Nazelli and Barry, probably about, doing the quick maths in my head, public school may be failing me yet again.
Join the club, bro.
It's about 42 seconds between Nazelli and Joyner. So as much as Joyner has been lapping pretty good, I feel like he may end up losing out a whole lot of time as a result of this strategy call from him. But looking at this fight continuing with DeGassis and Love side by side, hang down into turn number 5. Will it be Love or will it be DeGassis? It's going to be DeGassis getting that move done. As a little bit farther up in front of them, Gonzaga and Montgomery also trading blows.
Well, Gonzaga has indeed been very, very racy today, as is Kevin Adrian. These guys have just really not let each other have a break. And you can see Chris Montgomery is at the back of that. This is DeGassis and Love right behind. Sorry, DeGassis. Hey, Rob Campbell. I'm over the moon to see that guy. I'll tell you more about Rob Campbell in a few minutes. Rob, feel free to pop in, come say hi. But what an absolutely fantastic battle going on throughout the field. Chris Montgomery, I feel, has had there must have been something happen to him at some point. But we say that, these guys are still going at it out at the front. We've got James Barry and Maurizio Nazelli. They're going hard at it. As we look further back, we've got McConnell and Ditchburn going hard at it. Wilkie and Green are going hard at it. And then even further back as well, you see George is absolutely determined. Chris Montgomery, I'm not too sure if he's keen to make a pass here. Like he's looking like he'd like to have a go, but not wanting to force the issue free wide. Again, further back again, you can see DeGassis and Love going for it. Fantastic battles happening throughout the field, ladies and gentlemen.
And they nearly came to blows heading down into Canada Corner. It was a matter of inches between Kevin Adrian and George Gonzaga just a couple of moments ago. Those drivers still battling hard. Looking, though, coming into the pits is Joyner, so he's going to lose out on the lead of this race. Lasky coming down pit lane as well. Joyner now going to be exiting out. Kane Lasky coming in as well. He's now exiting yet again. But this is something, as much as it is very important that Ian Joyner, the leader of the race, has now come down pit lane, has lost out on a lot of time compared to Nazelli and Barry, and has really turned into a two-car fight. Got fights all throughout this field. It's so hard to keep track of all of them. I want to bring up something that I don't think I've ever seen in my nearly year and a half of broadcasting iRacing events. We have a tie for the lead, for the fastest lap of the race between Barry and Joyner. They're separated by thousandths of a second according to our graphic, but according to iRacing, just based off the fact they're both highlighted in purple, they both have it.
I just lost you for a second there, Ron.
Oh,
there you go. You're back.
Yeah, look. Okay, so I guess my microphone possibly having a small little bit of an issue there, but Barry and Joyner are tied for the fastest lap of the race.
Well, that's certainly a very, very incredible indeed. I'm actually on my side. Yeah, whoa. So on my side, I've got Barry with a 2:21.64. Then Joyner and Lasky are both at 2:21.65. So incredibly close. Ladies and gentlemen, that's how close this is. But speaking of close right now, Kevin Adrian is very close to the back of Chris Montgomery. He was able to get a little bit of a slingshot move gun on the start finish straight. This is good news for George Gonzaga, who's right ahead. And he is starting to try and chase down, yet again, Jason Green, who is in pursuit of Josh Wilkie a little bit further ahead. Wilkie's going to be very aware of the cars behind him and hope that everything goes his way, and they certainly start battling. Further up, Ditchburn, he's involved in a fight. He's got Lasky ahead of him, McConnell behind. Fights happening throughout, ladies and gentlemen. There's like 4 battles going on right now. Maurizio and Naselli, they're still going at it as we've got about 8.5 minutes left of this race to go.
And Naselli and Barry covered by barely any air at this point. Barry leading it, Naselli in P2. Pretty much no other cars around them, though. They're going to be side-by-side, hang down the start-finish straightaway. If this is an idea as to how this finish is going to look like in this race, I'm not sure if my heart would be able to handle it. Naselli going to get that move done in front of Barry, though, so that game of leapfrog very much continuing between those two. Touching back on that fast lap of the race point, Joyner, I mean, according to what I see on the graphics, Barry would have it because it's a thousandth of a second between those two. Barry at this point at a 2-minute 21.644 compared to Joyner at a 2-minute 21.645. But either way, I don't think I've ever seen two drivers set the fastest lap of the race, tied for the fastest lap of the race during the race. I've seen it in qualifying before. I've never seen it during a race session, but again, these Weekend Warriors races are so intense. It's so close, and we're seeing it at the front of the field. We're seeing it all throughout the field as well. Looking at that fight involving Chris Montgomery and Kevin Adrian, those two drivers battling hard. This fight, though, involving Ditchburn, Lasky blinking in and out of existence, so some UFO activity going on here at Road America, but he's running in 4th at the moment, Ditchburn in 5th, and McConnell in tow in P6. He's playing the patient game for sure, probably thinking, hey, with how hard these two are battling, I wouldn't be too shocked if these two cars go off in a cloud of dust and steam. So McConnell at this point really not forcing the issue as those two continue to fight.
Well, the gentleman here for Furball Racing, certainly, I've been keeping an eye on his incident point count, and generally, and the reason I'm saying that is not to knock the guy, but because he generally doesn't score incident points, and I believe there is some bonuses available for doing so, but I have got a crash warning for George Gonzaga, so we're going to take a quick look at that, Ron. Let's find out what happened.
Yeah, so this may have been a moment in time. He's a very fast driver in this series, but I think there may have been a little bit of drama here. You can see heading down into turn number 5, right behind Jason Green. A little bit of contact, man, that's going to spin him around, nearly ending up in the gravel trap. A quick little spin for Gonzaga. Not going to give him some major damage. These cars don't have really any wings at all. Not even like a wood plank stapled onto the front of the car. So Gonzaga going to get away with one there with a little bit of lost time, a little bit of a dented ego, but not much else damaged as a result of that.
Well, certainly it was quite expensive. You see, he had a very, very aggressive corner entry speed and maybe a little bit too much there, and it certainly played dividends, but it looks like we've got an even bigger battle happening now. Oh my gosh, yeah. So Trenton Kramer and George Gonzaga, they're now involved in this battle between Andrew Love and Alan DeGasis, and it is getting spicy, ladies and gentlemen. Hold on to your hat, Ron.
You can see him side by side, nearly coming to blows with DeGasis and Love through the final corner. That was an insane camera shot heading down into the last corner, but 3 wide heading through it. This is going to be close. I don't have a good feeling about this.
No, me neither.
3 wide heading down the start finish straightaway. Adrian DeGasis, Gonzaga, and Love covered by barely any air. This is going to be dicey between all of these drivers heading down into the braking zone through into turn number 1. Will it be Gonzaga prevailing? It looks like he's going to be prevailing with that move on DeGasis. Kramer, meanwhile, going to try and get the move done on him. And look at, oh my God, I can barely keep track of this. Love involved in the midst of that as well. Kramer, driver with a crocodile-looking race car, bobbing his head in the water to try and take a bite. He's been feeling racy all throughout this race. Got involved in a spin earlier on, really, because I jinxed him right at that point in time. This fight is still absolutely insane. Hang down the back straightaway, off into turn number 5. I don't have a good feeling about this, though. That pack heading down into the final corner. 2x2. They're still pretty much entirely 2x2, with Love losing out all a little bit of time at this moment. But side by side now, heading off into turn number 6. Gonzaga trying to stick it around the outside of Kramer. Kramer gonna be stuck on the outside through 7. Looks like Gonzaga going to get that move done to hold on to P11 as it stands at the moment. This fight is absolutely insane. I've got to, oh boy, nearly making contact and coming to blows, heading down into turn number 8. I'm trying to pass this off to you, Zippy, but I genuinely don't know when to do it because I'm fully expecting these cars to go off in a cloud of dust and steam rise and pass it back off to you.
Well, honestly, any other series, I would be inclined to agree with you. And even now, it's certainly gotten me sweating a little bit. But these guys are absolute pros. And I think Rob Campbell said it very well. These are rookie cars, but it's considered pro-level battling. 100%. Generally, the F1600, the Spec Racer Ford, and even the Formula V, often overlooked. And certainly, it's a huge misunderstanding because this is some of the best racing action. Anybody who's ever seen the Weekend Warriors broadcast, absolutely tune in. As you can see here, Trenton Kramer getting an absolutely fantastic move done. Actually, he was very, very good at Charlotte Motor Speedway just last week. Made a huge amount of positions gained. Certainly a little bit of a hog for the screen time almost in the last few weeks, Ron.
Yeah, he's usually a pretty awesome driver to follow in the Ray Esports Weekend Warriors world, and certainly proving that here. He's made up 16 spots where he's started in this race, the hard charger by a country mile. Let's see, though. Is he going to hold on to that spot, or is Gonzaga going to get a move on him? Is DeGassis going to get a move done on him? Heading down into turn number 1, Gonzaga and DeGassis working together to try and displace Kramer. He's stuck on the outside, though, running on board with Andrew Love, who has a beautiful view of this fight, the camera car of this fight. He's very happy, though, that he's not involved in the midst of that. He wants no parts of this absolute madness right outside the top 10 in this race, with only about 3 minutes left on the clock. So we're probably coming to the white flag next time by Zippy. So this race slowly drawing to a conclusion. Nazelli and Barry, they're still covered by barely in the air. This fight, though, nearly 3 wide, heading down the back straightaway through into the Marine Street.
Oh, no.
Number 5 for one of the last times in this race. Oh, boy, I don't have a good feeling about this. Gonzaga trying to wheel it on the inside. Looking at that, coming to blows through turn number 5. That's the gas that spun around. Kramer and Gonzaga going both off the track. Looks like Love is going to capitalize on all that, getting some moves done. I can't say I'm surprised about that, though. These drivers are very fast, they're very consistent, and they're very respectful. Both hard battling like that, something like that is going to happen eventually. And sadly, the hammer strikes right towards the end of the race.
Well, to be fair, it was very much a pressure cooker, and the pressure was starting to heat up with just 2 minutes left to go. And even then, DeGassis is very much under attack. Jason Perry in the Spider-Man liveried machine, he's looking to have a crack at him. Further back, George Gonzaga, he's now under attack from Bill Walker. It's a shame, really, because George Gonzaga has honestly been having a fantastic drive, but getting caught up in a couple of incidents has really paid the price. And let's have a look, see what's happening here. Kevin Adrian, yet again under attack, this time from Chris Montgomery. These guys, nose to tail. Is Montgomery going to force the move, or is he potentially sitting back on purpose and looking to do it at the start-finish?
I think he may be trying to do that. A little bit of strategy playing a role into how these drivers are tackling these battles. Could best describe it as a game of chess. And speaking of that game of chess, it is very much on between these two. Nazelli leading it, coming to the white flag. But is he going to be the one leading it coming to the checker? That remains to be determined. Look at Ian Joyner as well. He's now taken the undisputed claim for the fastest lap of the race over James Barry right in front of him. He would probably be the one to capitalize the best if these two drivers come to blows, which, considering the drama we just saw not terribly long ago off into turn number 5, I certainly wouldn't rule it out. These drivers are fast, these drivers are competitive, and these drivers want to go for any sort of opportunity that they possibly can. Kramer coming into the pits along with Gonzaga, so some damage on those race cars, bringing them into the pits. That's going to be tough for Kramer, as he was up 16 spots where he started in this race. That's certainly going to damage his chances of picking up the Hard Charger Award from this race. Round number 7 of the Formula Ford Weekend Warriors has not been a disappointment, and I'll tell you what, we still got a half a lap to decide this fight between Barry and Nazelli. Heading through turn number 7 for the final time, that's hurry downs. They're going to be hurrying down into turn number 8, though. Looks like Barry playing the patient game at this point. He didn't go for a move heading into turn number 1, didn't go for it off into turn number 5, hasn't gone for it into turn number 8, will even go for it into Canada Corner. Is he going to try and focus all his attention on getting the best exit he possibly can into turn number 14? That is going to be important. There's such a long run between exiting that final corner and hitting that start-finish line and taking that checkered flag that really anyone can win it if they're side by side coming out of the corner. I've seen photo finishes at this racetrack in real life and in the sim.
Is this going to
We're
be
setting
it?
ourselves up for a good one. Barry closing.
All right.
Side by side now with himself and Maurizio Nazelli. Barry on the inside line, trying to get it done, wheeling it. Nazelli going to be backing out of it on the outside line, understandably so. Those two cars were coming right down inches, hang through the corner, but Nazelli going to wheel it down to the inside of turn number 13. Nazelli, he is not going down without a fight, trying to wheel it around the outside through the final corner of turn 14. Barry has the advantageous position of being on the inside. Nazelli, though, he was on the outside. He's got to carry a lot of momentum. Who's going to win it? A good feeling about Nazelli. He's slowly pulling out that gap. They're side by side, coming to the line. Will it be Nazelli? Will it be Barry? It's going to be Nazelli winning it.
Well, it's definitely a close fight, as we see here back with Julian Ditchburn, Kane Lasky, and that's Michael McConnell. These guys are not going to be able to get a pass done at the line. Let's head further back, check out Kevin Adrian. Oh my gosh, this is going to be another one, Ron. We're going to be neck and neck at the line. It's going to be a photo finish, but it looks like Kevin Adrian is able to get it done. Got a little bit of a better exit there and manages to take that position away. Let's take a further look back. Jason Perry, he's looking to try and make a move as well. I don't think he's going to have the real estate to get it done.
Yeah, it looks like Perry is going to have to settle for P13 behind Alan DeGassis. But my God, that fight between Nazelli and Barry was intense. And we mentioned the game of chess between those two drivers. I gotta say, Nazelli, he executed that final lap brilliantly. He put his car in the right position. You'd usually think, ran the outside, hang through one of the final corners around this lap, you are doomed to fail. But Nazelli realized that if he was on the inside like Barry was, for instance, he wouldn't have a good exit coming onto that start-finish straightaway for the final time. Running around the outside, despite the fact that he was at the will of Barry. Barry's a respectful racer. He knew that, and he kind of exploited that a teeny tiny bit, if I'm being completely honest. Nazelli realized, hey, at this point in time, I have a fantastic way to get this win. Sweeped around the outside through turn 14, carried that momentum all the way onto that start-finish straightaway to take the checkered flag with just barely any air between those two. Half a tenth, less than half a tenth for that matter, when everything is said and done here for round number 7 of the 2024 season for Formula Ford Weekend Warriors. It has been an awesomely entertaining season thus far, and we just saw that continue. Now officially over the halfway mark, but what a way to kick off the second half of this season. Got a few more cars left out there on the racetrack, still taking the checkered flag. Had a few incidents throughout this race, which kind of spread out the field a teeny tiny bit, but nevertheless, it was still a heart pumper here at Road America from start to finish, and Maurizio Nazelli, the pole man, wins it when everything is said and done, avenging a somewhat disappointing loss that he had at the Charlotte Roval 1 week ago. He wins it in front of championship leader James Berry in P2. Ian Joyner, who tried the off-the-wall strategy, didn't really work out for him, but in the end, he actually closed out that gap to himself and Nazelli, possibly because Nazelli and Berry were fighting, possibly because he had the pace, certainly grabbed the fastest lap of the race for sure, but Ian Joyner going to round out your overall podium in third. Kane Lasky doing exactly what he needed to do, a clean and composed drive for him, a little bit cautious at times. He put on a pretty good show and ends up finishing this race in 4th. Julian Ditchburn going to round out your overall top 5. Michael McConnell in the number 62 going to finish right behind in 6th. Then Joshua Wilkie winning in the Spec 2 category with a 7th place result overall. Jason Green ends up in 8th, Kevin Adrian in 9th. Chris Montgomery finishes in 10th. Jim Brewster wins in the Masters category, finishing P11 overall. Alan DeGassis finishes a little bit farther in tow, 2nd of the Masters drivers, 12th overall. Jason Perry finishes in 13th. Bill Walker in 14th. Peter Maddox in P15. Russell Telker, who put on a brilliant drive, if I do say so myself, running into some connection issues, starting from the pits. He ends up in 16th, so a well-executed drive from him when everything is said and done. George Gonzaga maybe going to be kicking himself after that drama heading down into turn number 5. He ends up in 17th, however, it could have been a lot more for the Portuguese racer. Brad Cathcart got involved in it a little bit earlier on in the race. He ends up in 18th in the 905 car. Daniel Verone finishes in 19th. Dan Szynski finishes right behind in 20th. Trent Kramer ends up in 21st, which is a very disappointing result for a driver who was on track for a very, very good one. Still gets the Hard Charger award, making up 11 spots where he started in this race, but could have been 16 positions gained had that incident towards the end of this race not taken place. But he ends up in 21st, Paul Jackson in 22nd, Andrew Love in 23rd, Jason Grider in 24th, Michael Nelson in 25th, Antonio Reese got involved in an incident a little bit earlier on in this race, leaves the session, ends up 11 laps down in 26th. Brian Szynski, Jeff Jacobson, and Chris Bocher rounding out the 29 cars that are classified here from the 7th race of the season at Road America. A hard pumper from start to finish. And Zippy, we've got some drivers waiting in the interview waiting area. I'll let you pick who you want to have a chat with first.
Well, I tell you what, let's bring in the one and only Mr. Jim Brewster. Now, Jim, what an absolutely fantastic race. Up 3 positions overall, but certainly some a little bit of good luck there and some clean driving by yourself. Tell us a little bit about the race from your perspective.
Hey, I'm saying winner, winner, chicken dinner. It's been a long time since I won a Masters. With those Masters aliens we have to put up with, and the whole populace being fast. No, so Andrew and I, we're on Discord together, and he kicked my butt in a pit lane, and then he ran out of gas. So we calculated 17.02 laps, and he was figuring there's no way the leaders could do that with that super long, crazy 45-mile-an-hour, 2-mile long pit lane. But they did it. They did 17 laps, and that's what messed up some of these people, I think.
Well, certainly, the fuel can be a big part of the race result. We've seen a few people getting the affectionately named Thompson Trophy, and anybody who's a regular here at the Weekend Warriors will know how that came about. And ironically, actually, every member of SMB who's ever raced in the Weekend Warriors has been guilty of holding said trophy at some point. But Jim, what an absolutely fantastic race.
But see, I argue that Jason disagrees, is that the pit stop stuff is a gamble. You gamble on a couple things, race length, gas, and your speed. And that's why I'm not a fan. That's why I love our Formula V races without him. Anyway, hey, hi Tam, hi to the rest of the crew, hi to Stevie and Adam on vacation out wherever they are in that foreign country, wherever Adam lives. Anyway, so hello to everybody. I'm going to go celebrate. I don't get to win these things very often.
Well, an absolutely fantastic drive. Jim, very much well done. And before we let you go, tell us a little bit about Brands Hatch. How do you feel about that track?
Oh, I love it. I love it. The real Brands Hatch, that make-believe Indy circuit is for the B, that's silly. But the other one is a fantastic classic, who can, it's that accuracy of how you cut the curbs, up through the hill. And I love that place. And that'll be a lot of fun.
Well, definitely very valid.
Thanks for all the fun, Zippy.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Jim Brewster. That is your Masters winner. Thank you very much for coming in. Now, who do you want next, Ron? You pick your poison, sir.
I will pick my poison momentarily. However, bad news for Jim Brewster. Not a fan of the Indy circuit, apparently, which is where we are going to be running in 1 week's time. So, sorry to Brewster trouble there, Jim.
Unlucky, Jim.
We're going to be bringing in Ian Joyner, who, despite the fact that he did not end up with a victory, still gave us a really intriguing storyline to follow all throughout this race, trying the different strategy. Ian, welcome here to the commentary booth. Well done on the P3 result when everything is said and done, and talk us through a really exciting race here at Road America.
Yeah, it was fun to be in the contention. A little frustrating, like the heart sank coming out of the pits and seeing 3 seconds gap to the guys in front. Before that, it was kind of fun. It was also a little boring because we weren't really racing that hard. We were just trying to put the laps in, keep the times down, build a gap. We knew the race was going to come at the end. I'm not sure whether the other guys pitted early because they fueled short at the start. I just filled it as far as I could go, ran as far as I could. Lap times are already good. I think I just was a little cautious on how much fuel I put in the end. And then, I had some good pace at the end, but not much you can do. It's just so hard to make that time up in the what was left of the race.
I mean, he still showed a whole lot of pace throughout this race, grabbing the fastest lap in the process, and I'm not sure if you were aware of this, but at one point in time, you and James Berry were actually tied for the fastest lap of the race, but showed a whole lot of pace here at Road America. Yeah, it was... I mean, that was something I've never seen before in my time doing iRacing broadcast, which stretches all the way back to March of last year, so that's really saying something. But showed a whole lot of pace here at Road America. However, going to be running to a much different racetrack, one that may be in your backyard, Brands Hatch Indy Circuit in 1 week's time. So how do you think that race is going to be for you?
I think that's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a lot less spread out. It's not as easy to overtake. The draft's still there, but you can't just effortlessly kind of pass like you can here. So I think that'll be a fun. It'll be a closer race. There'll be a bit more lapping going on. Short pit lane too. It's probably good for me. Maybe I'll do some fuel in practice. But yeah, it's good. It'll be fun. It'll be fun. A bit closer to home as well.
Well, it's also going to be a very exciting race, much like the one that we had here at Road America, and you create a whole lot of action for us to follow towards the very beginning. I'm sure you're going to do the same at Brands Hatch in just 1 week's time. But before we let you go, Ian, and celebrate this P3 result here at Road America, is there anyone you want to give a thanks to or shout out?
Yeah, thanks to my family here in the UK and also to Weenus Motorsport.
Alrighty, there you go, Ian Joyner. Well done on the P3 result. I'm excited to see you back out on the racetrack in 1 week's time, man. Thanks for joining us.
See you then. Thank you. Bye-bye.
And that right there was Ian Joyner, the driver who finishes this race in third. And Zip, you got one more person waiting in the interview waiting area. Technically, your employee, so let's have a chat with Josh.
Surprise, Mr. Wilkie. Well, what an absolutely fantastic race by yourself, and I'm going to try not to sound too biased, but attaboy, Josh, attaboy. Showing them how it's done, representing SMB a hell of a lot better than I would. But tell us a little bit about how the race was from your perspective, Josh. Certainly we've seen you getting in battles with pretty much everybody in the field at this point. Tell us, what were some of the challenges you encountered today?
Yeah, I mean, a ton of challenges out there today. I'm in over my head for sure there up at the front like that. It was not, don't really think, I certainly did not have that kind of pace coming into today at all. I got a really good slingshot off of Jason Green in qualifying that kind of put me at 5-6 tenths ahead of my usual lap time. Like I beat my lap time by a second or something in qualifying. And then I just honestly tried to hang with the boys there and keep my shoulders out a bit and just see what I could do, basically. I had kind of a crappy pit stop, and then I actually had to, or at least I thought I had to fuel save a little bit, so I kind of lost some time. But those guys definitely faster than me on a lap and so on. And I'm just out there kind of trying to figure it out here as I go. But I'm definitely figuring it out this year in this car. It's meshing with me. I really like it. I seem to be finding pace every race. So yeah, really enjoying it.
Well, you're certainly doing an absolutely fantastic job in the S2. Certainly, we all know that next year the S2 title will be revoked. You'll be getting moved up to S1. Like, nobody can really contest that at this point, but certainly for this season, it's safe. But the question is the championship safe? We're going to have to wait and find out. But Josh, before we let you go, any closing thoughts on the racer?
Yeah, just a big thanks to you guys and everything always for putting it on, the competitors out there and stuff. And yeah, that's about it. Definitely looking forward, obviously, to move up next season and stuff and get some more competition and FF and stuff as well. But I believe it was Chris Montgomery today had some pace, and congrats to the winners. I believe it was Jim Brewster and James Berry. So big congrats to those guys. I know Jim hasn't gotten a win in a little while, and much deserved today. So good on it. And yeah, we'll talk to you guys later. Thank you very much.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was SMB's finest driver, especially Mr. Thompson, if you're watching. It was SMB's finest driver, because he was at least here today, but we will give the former boss man a little bit of a pass. But Josh, you can hang out in the booth if you want. You fill your boots, son. You do what you want to do. But Ron, any closing thoughts as we bring this broadcast to an end?
Well, just another fantastic race here from the Formula Ford Weekend Warriors. I've done broadcasts with the series as far back as like late 2023, but this series is always so impressive. The racing action that we have in these races, 40 minutes may seem a little bit long, but it doesn't feel long in the Weekend Warriors world. The same goes for the Spec Racer Fords that we're going to be seeing a little bit later on this afternoon. And speaking of, let's take a look at some of the upcoming broadcasts that we have going on not just SMB, but also Pit Road Productions as well. Here on Slow Motion Broadcasting, coming up later on this afternoon is going to be round 7 of the Spec Racer Ford Weekend Warriors 2024 Season 4. That is going to be at Daytona International Speedway. Daytona Motor Speedway is the off-brand child of Daytona International Speedway. Going to be running on the moto layout there as well. So it doesn't really feel like the normal road course, so I guess I will excuse the other typo there.
Yeah,
the XSLR series is going to be yeah, it's quite all right, Zippy. We all have our moments. XSLR going to be running later on this evening. Tim Cox going to be on the call for that, I believe, with the Legends cars running at the Lernerville Dirt Circuit. I know next to nothing about dirt racing, so can't really say as to whether or not that's going to be a compelling race or not, but hey, tune in here at SMB. That's all I will say. Tune in this upcoming Wednesday for a brand new adventure in the Ray Esports world. season number 1, round number 1 of the Ray Esports Club Racing League. Gonna be seeing some Miata and TCR action at Road Atlanta, all set to kick off at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here on the Slow Motion Broadcasting on Wednesday, October 30th. Then we have some more Weekend Warriors action with the Formula V's next Saturday running at Zandvoort, and the Formula Ford's the next race of this season at Brands Hatch on Sunday, November the 3rd. Moving on to Pit Road Productions, though, Zippy, I think I will let you discuss this since this is your child as well.
Well, that is fair, Ron. So, Pit Road Productions, some of you guys know, that is the sister channel to SMB. It was around before I became involved, and certainly SMB was a little bit of an accident for me. It's not what I originally intended to do, but you know what? I'm very grateful that it has. But Slow Motion Broadcasting, Pit Road Productions, you got the same guy behind the scenes. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, that would be me. So these two series here, it's the same. It's run by BAS, which is Britannia Esports, and they are paid leagues. And all right, you know, I get paid leagues are a little bit different, but the reason I'm mentioning them, ladies and gentlemen, so the BIS Radical Canada Cup, you can literally win a drive in a real Radical race car. It will be in like the Toronto area, I believe. I can't remember if it's Canadian Tire Motorsport Park or Toronto Motorsport Park they use. Please forgive me for that. I get confused between the two. But certainly last year's winner, Zach Buchanan and Ozzy Milwain, got to have that real life experience. So certainly, very much, if you want to get behind the wheel of a real race car, that is a good chance of doing it. Don't get me wrong, you've got to come to Canada. I'm sorry about that, but you know, it's the nature of the beast. And then not only that, if you go to the BIS F1600s, it's the same kind of deal. You can win a drive in a real F1600 race car. That one there does have an I rating cap of 3,000. Certainly Joshua Wilkie would be a valuable contender to certainly have a crack at that. But he's actually going to be doing the direction there for that Ray Esports Club Racing League, as is Ron Maunz. He's going to be the commentator for that. So you're going to have that dream team together. But ladies and gentlemen, if you're interested, they're the details. Certainly reach out to me or reach out in the Discord if you want a little bit more info. But a fun schedule coming up indeed, as we're going to see some real life racing drivers as well getting involved in that.
Got some awesome stuff to look forward to across both of the channels. That's going to be an awesome adventure with the Ray Esports Club Racing League. I was part of the Ray Esports Racing League back when that was still a thing earlier on this year. That racing was always awesome. I started covering that series back when I was 18, which isn't really saying much since I'm 19. But nevertheless, that series is awesome. The brand new reincarnation is going to be exciting as well. And that's going to be action running from this upcoming Wednesday all the way through until April of next year, with some small little breaks for the holidays in between. That gives you one hell of a reason to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell here on Slow Motion Broadcasting and Pit Road Productions as well, so you never miss any of the racing action from all of the series that we have here. But as for this broadcast here for the Formula Ford Weekend Warriors today, that will just about do it. So for myself, Ron Maunz, and Zippy working all the comms, working all the cameras, and joining me here in the commentary booth, I say thank you all so very much for watching. Have a great rest of your day, and now stay tuned for Randall McGrew with the Spec Racer Fords later on this afternoon.
I see a Budweiser. Go ahead and hold it up.
Yes.
That was the biggest clue.
Yes, right
Doing
there.
it for Dale.
Man, it's so many gimmicks, right? I feel like they're making it a lot more complicated than it needs to be. I mean, a lot of people, you get polarizing opinions on DRS.
I know you guys know exactly what I'm talking about here, but sometimes the effort, it's all about the boys. You know, like, hey, you know, life sucks sometimes, and you need the boys.
iRacing kind of always has a tendency to kind of buff
Yes.
the new cars just a little bit. I'm not going to go on record saying it's because they want people to spend money on their platform and buy all the new content.
Confirmed.
But
We are live for the first time on Slow Motion Broadcasting with the FF Weekend Warriors. We're at Sebring this weekend. It's going to be a blast. I saw a little bit of rain here in the practice session, but we'll get to that here in 1 second. My name is Adam Thompson. I'm joined in the booth by Randall McGrew.
With these three going right at it, we see you're getting really, really squirrely. There,
Oh, no!
Some contact. Oh no! Jurg and Antonio, the two Masters leaders, both with issues and now dropping down the order.
There's a dicing through the curbs. Our lead two. As that's Instaman just slossing it up the inside through McIntyre there. Beautifully done by the Icelandic driver as there's a big incident happened behind somewhere. Gonzaga losing a lot of places back.
Almost touching at that point. They're around there heading into the closing stages of the track. Not quite there yet. Heading through what I'm calling the horseshoe, but let's not get into my drawing skills at this point. Nothing but clear track ahead of them at this point, so no one should be able to interfere in that battle. Side by side, nearly had contact there. That's going to put Kabanka on the inside for this next hairpin. This could be what decides it, and he's gone right on the outside, actually trying to cover off the car. I do wonder if Barry is going to be close enough to potentially slipstream. They've got 2 corners left to go. This is penultimate one now. Barry right up close, 0.3 of a second. I'm not sure it's going to be close enough, 0.2 of a second. He's got to keep his foot on that loud pedal. Catches a little bit of a curve, but has Kabanka done it? Barry going to the inside, and Kabanka gets it.